Last 16 of the 2018 FIFA World Cup. There is confirmation of the group table, and that star beside Croatia's name means they are through. 6 points out of 6. Argentina's fate is now out of their hands. Their final game is against Nigeria. Of course, it's Nigeria against Iceland tomorrow. Croatia finished the group against Iceland as well. But a hugely significant night. I think, Liam, beforehand, we have to give massive credit to Croatia because you were going for them big time, and this really does back up your point about them being dark horses.
Yeah, well, they're a big physical side, but a huge amount of skill in it, led by the guy we just saw there, Modric. He was absolutely fantastic. You got Rakitic at Barcelona as well. You got Mandzukic. They have real quality throughout the side, and they were a real team from start to finish, where Argentina, they turned out to be a shambles in that second half.
But Damien, that'll be all the headlines tomorrow. Messi's picture will be on the front and the back of every newspaper around the world.
No doubt he'll get the blame. I've learned as well, don't let your heart ever rule your head. I thought at the start of the competition Argentina might win the tournament. Couldn't be further from the truth. They're as bad an Argentina team as I've seen. They were wide open all night from start to finish, disjointed, 3-4-3. Tagliafico, a centre-half, he's a left-back. The two wing-backs are wingers. Wide open, as I said, from start to finish. And even if you just look through the teams at the end there's probably, obviously Messi, maybe Aguero. There's two players that will get in the Croatian team. Otherwise, listen, sometimes they say don't look too much into the paper, but Croatia are stronger, and they are a dark horse, like Liam says. They're just so well organised. There's such a good game plan. The goal came from pressing Caballero, like we said at half-time. Caballero, awful. You know, Sampaoli, I've been a big fan of him throughout his career, but just the way he set up his team, everything tonight, first time he's played 3-4-3, I thought Argentina were awful.
Here in this studio on the south side of Dublin, Eamon, because, you know, Spain were the big name casualties in the first round 4 years ago. Argentina, their fate is hanging by a thread now.
It is, yeah. I mean, they need to beat Nigeria, and they want the other teams to draw. It's a bad night for Argentina. It's not the first they've had. They left players on the bench. Dybala, in particular, one of the best young players in Europe, playing for Juventus. Di Maria, you know, a top player, not on the pitch. The coach, Sampaoli, you know, he coached Chile to win the Copa America in 2016. He has a track record, but that was a shambles. And the first goal, Caballero, you know, we've seen him, and we've seen him at Manchester City, and this messing around at the back. He did it in the first half and got away with it. But give a goal like that away. But the person I feel most sorry for is Lionel Messi, because people are going to extrapolate from this tournament and his appearance in it as to whether he or Ronaldo, you know, is the best player in the world, and make unfavourable comparisons, perhaps. That's one thing I don't think he'll worry too much about. But in his home country, where Maradona, who we saw in cutaways there during the game, Maradona is still remembered as the great player. So I think they're a poor team. They were made poorer by the management's selection to start the game. And I think Liam is right. By a very good team. The opponents are very good. Croatia are a good team. And Liam was right to say, and I wouldn't have necessarily agreed with him before the match started, that they were dark horses for the tournament. When you look at Germany, look at Brazil, you know, the giants, look at Spain, struggling to beat Iran last night. So I think Liam is spot on.
And Croatia, as you mentioned, giants, they're huge, physically very imposing, powerful team. Liam, just come back to Argentina for a moment, because, you know, Messi will be the poster boy of this defeat and all that, but how much of the blame do you lay at the door of the coach? And he's changed so much. Like, you go back in a 7-month period, he used 43 players for Argentina, had 6 different tactical formations, and he's confused everything, and, you know, throw the baby out with the bathwater and all that stuff. He's just changed too much.
Yeah, he looked confused himself. He has a real good players up front, you know, but he never seemed to be able to find the positions for them, you know. And then the guys from in behind in midfield, like Mascherano playing against Modric, it was like, you know, a very bad player playing against a great player. Yeah. And they didn't seem to have anybody to get the forwards into the game, whereas if they had a player like Luka Modric in their side, it could change things completely. So I think he maybe had too many options and didn't know how to get the best out of the forward line. But looking at Otamendi again, like the indiscipline, what summed up Argentina today was the indiscipline of everybody, and even the coach, I think, looks an indisciplined guy. He's chopping and changing all the time. He doesn't know what he wants. On the field of play, they were vicious. The Croats stood up to them, and they were equally as tough. They lose their heads, Argentina. There's no cool minds in there. And I felt sorry, as Eamon said, I felt sorry for Messi because he looked a lost soul out there today.
Could he not have, you know, because he is the leader, he's the best player in the world, you know, when that sort of stuff is going on, like, I know it's hard to take control of it, but did you expect to see him do that, or is it just too hard? I think the pressure
is just too much for the guy. And at Barcelona, he's at ease. He's at ease with the way they play. He's at ease with his teammates. He's comfortable. He's in a comfort zone at Barcelona. And he has been absolutely magnificent year in, year out. For Argentina now, for the last, what, 3 World Cups? Yeah. Is it 3 now he's played in there? Yeah. He looks like he's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders.
See, we only see the shambles.
Actually, it might be 4, sorry.
We only see the shambles in the 90 minutes on the pitch. But you can bet your bottom dollar that the stuff off the pitch, you know, the training is probably wrong, probably little cliques around the place. And that all manifests itself in a poor performance, but it's all kinds of stuff. And we had it with the Irish team when they were travelling steerage and the suits were up in first class. Keane made a big issue of it. But there's all these kinds of things go on as well. And even before you go on the pitch, your morale can be sapped in a messy organisation. And Maradona looms over everything too. He'll be making incendiary comments.
Well, he did in the build-up to this about the coach saying he shouldn't be allowed back into the country.
Yeah, all of that feeds in.
Yeah, they struggled in the qualifiers, didn't they? They really
massively.
Did.
But look, like they had 3 different coaches.
They've struggled to get out of South America, and let's face it, they should be with Brazil. It should be a foregone conclusion that they're out and up and running. Well, they're at the World Cup, but they struggled. So this is no surprise.
There have been problems with the federation, and various players have made comments about officials and stuff like that. A lot of that seemed to kind of calm down. 3 different coaches in the qualification. Like, should we be that surprised? If you go back to the Spanish match, what was the score on that? You talked about it before.
They got beat
6-1. Conceded 6 goals.
6-1,
you know, I know Messi didn't play. He came into the dressing room that night, but like, were the warning signs there of this kind of a collapse?
I think if you look at the squad list, the warning signs are there. Like Liam's saying there, Argentina should be cruising the South American qualifying with Brazil. Yeah, the name, you think Argentina, wow, but like I said, if I'm to pick a starting 11 out of 2 teams tonight, 9 of them are Croatian. So, like the quality of players that I keep going on about, the 2 wing-backs, the 2 in midfield, Mascherano, like he's at 34, nearly 35. Like, I think the lad said his legs are gone. Perez, like he's been in and out of the team. He's not going to get you playing. When you think of Argentina, you think of like a total footballing team, don't you? Whereas they couldn't string, I don't know, 5-10 passes together. And then Messi gets hammered for dropping too deep. But he's dropping deep because he's trying to get in the ball, because they can't get the ball to him. So it's a catch-22. But he'll get the blame. He got the blame in 2010, but nobody mentions that Maradona couldn't set up a good team in 2010. 2014... he got them to the final single-handedly, so he did his stuff. But this time, like, I just look at the squad. Sorry, Dar, but starting 11 tonight, it's poor. It's very poor.
No, but there's a lot of, and you know, the players on the bench. You mentioned about Dybala.
They're all forwards.
But it's imbalanced. The balance of it is wrong.
They're all forwards. The midfield was non-existent. They didn't get playing. They didn't keep the ball. When Messi's playing for Barcelona, the Barcelona midfield players keep the ball for 8-9 passes. They get the other team running around, and then they isolate Messi one-on-one, and then he gets the ball, and then he can do his stuff. It doesn't happen tonight.
But that's the coach's fault, Eamon, is it? The way the whole thing is set up.
Well, like,
if he can't get the balance right. Like, I'll give you a quote about, this is from Sampaoli, from World Soccer. He was interviewed and asked why he hasn't got Dybala in the team, because he hasn't been in it. He said, when I first called him in, we did so because we considered him a top player. That's fair enough. Excuse me at home for reading this out, but it is important. Over time, throughout our time working with him, either we didn't know how best to use him, unlike at his club, or he didn't adapt to our idea of play. Now, when your man was managing Chile, Sampaoli, excuse me, it was all this high-octane, high-energy stuff, Sanchez and all those guys. But, like, Argentina don't play high-octane football.
But it comes down to the players at your disposal. You can play high-octane pressing football. You've got Sanchez, Vidal another Chilean player. Those guys can do it. These guys can't. Mascherano's playing in China now. You know,
he couldn't run.
No, and you wouldn't expect him to run. He ended up at Barcelona in the back four. So, I, say of that coach, he hasn't got the players. In the South American section, Uruguay finished second to Brazil. Brazil won it by 10 clear points. I saw Uruguay. We've seen them twice now. They're pretty ordinary. Really ordinary.
They're into the last 16.
Yeah, but I think it underlines the fact that South America has been traditionally, where the great players have come from. They're not there anymore. That's the problem. They haven't got, if that's the best they've got in Argentina, look at Brazil.
So the standard in South America is coming down.
They've all come to Europe over the last 15, 20 years. If you don't have idols and iconic figures in your own country, in Brazil and Argentina, it's going to stop people going to the game and stop people playing the game. Europe has raided South America, taken all their best players, and that has damaged the basic grassroots game, I would say, in South America, because it's emptied. All their players are in Europe. Who goes to the league games? Who are the inspirational figures? Where are the Damien Duffs, the Liam Brady's? They're out of the country.
But they were up against it tonight.
Against a serious outfit.
Let's give Croatia credit. If they wanted to mix it, Croatia are a kind of team that Argentina tried to mix it with them. They were flying in with tackles. They were nasty tackles, but Croatia said, OK, if you want to play it that way, we'll play that way. And yet, on top of that, they had the quality of Modric. He was absolutely brilliant tonight, Dara. Not only in what he did with the ball, but how he got the ball. He intercepts, he reads where passes are going, and he wins the ball back for his team. And then you've got Rakitic, you've got Mandzukic, you've got the lad who got the first goal. What a first goal that was. I know Caballero messed up, but he still had it all to do. Great quality.
They are a serious outfit for sure, there's no doubt about it. We have a look at the Rebic goal, actually, because, we talked at half-time about who would react, what sort of a reaction would we see from Argentina, what changes could be made, all that sort of thing. Signs in the second half, early, you saw this mistake from Caballero, and we'd seen one similar in the first half. A howler is an understatement.
Yeah, this is the one in the first half, Dara, and I think Brian says in commentary about you'd rather a keeper be better with his hands than his feet. I'm not so sure. The game has developed and transformed so much nowadays that I think you have to more concentrate and look at the goalkeeper's feet. That's just horrific. He's cost Man City goals with his feet, and Champions League he's cost Chelsea in the FA Cup with his feet, and tonight he's cost Argentina because he gave Croatia belief, momentum. It's just horrific. I don't think any words can describe it. Amazing finish. You have to say that about Rebic, but schoolboy from Caballero. But like I say it again, it's what we expect. The warning signs were there. We've mentioned them I don't know how many times. If you're Sampaoli, you say, listen, back to the goalkeeper, let's just get back up the pitch. Get up the pitch and go long, because Caballero doesn't have the quality to get you started. So, horrific mistake, horrific.
Yeah. Romero, wasn't it, the Manchester United goalkeeper, played all 18 of the qualifiers. Caballero's fifth.
Look, if you're a midfield player and your last man, or a defender, your last man, you wouldn't try a chip pass there and risk giving the ball away, would you? I mean, your goalkeeper's doing it. What is he doing? What's he thinking? He could have taken it on his left foot and away down the pitch. Well, madness.
We see it a lot. We do see it a lot. Eamon, we're going to look at the Modric goal, the second goal, the one that kind of killed it off. And OK, two sides to this. Brilliant finish. Would you be critical of the keeper?
At first glance, yes. Yeah. But when I saw it on replay, no, because he's unsighted for a moment. It's a brilliant goal. It starts about a yard outside the post and curls into the corner. From here, you'd think Caballero, yeah, you'd blame him. But when you see it again, you'll see that his own defenders blindside him for just a fraction of a second there. You see now he can't see the ball there, and when he sees it, it's too late. Yes, you'd still hope he'd get it, but this is going wide and curls in. That is about as perfect.
But what about the strike?
That's what I'm saying. It's about as perfect as a strike can be. It's a great goal. Yeah.
And he's supposed to, himself and Lovren are involved in these alleged perjury trials back home. And there was some suggestion that,
I think those
the mentality
charges might be dropped.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'm sure you had due process and all that. But there was a suggestion maybe that
if Croatia get to the semi-finals, those charges will go out the window there.
Maybe if they get to the final, who knows? But it's the first time since '98 that they've been out of the group. But they were talking about his mentality, Liam, and maybe something mightn't be quite right with him. There'd been a disconnect with the fans and the players. That's kind of back together tonight, I would suggest.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
He's not had a stellar season for Real.
Okay.
No, but he's got it.
He hasn't.
He hasn't, Liam. I'm telling you.
Well, not in the league he has, but in the Champions League he's been very good.
He actually didn't. Even in the final in Champions League, he has not had a stellar season by the high standards he set.
Well, I think he's one of the main reasons they won the Champions League. You know.
He's a very good player. He's an outstanding player. And he was outstanding tonight.
He certainly was, and he's driven his team with a few others into the last 16 of the World Cup with a game to spare. Yes, hello again. Croatia have beaten Argentina by 3-0 to make it through to the last 16 of the FIFA World Cup. We're going to look at, well, it's the icing on the cake, Liam. The third goal for them came late on from Rakitic.
Yeah, you know, obviously Argentina threw everything forward here, and, you know, they caught them on the break. Rakitic takes the ball on, everybody backs off. Caballero maybe should have knocked it round for a corner, it's just slipped back to him, and it's easy. It's easy. It was a way shambolic the way the Argentinians were trying to defend this, and it said everything about them in the second half. But as Brian said in commentary, Rakitic deserved his goal. He worked tirelessly in midfield. Him and Modric are a great partnership, and he deserved that goal, and 3-0 was the right scoreline.
3-0. Luka Modric, Liam, his performance. I know yourself and Eamon were having a debate about the sort of season he had.
Yeah, perhaps Eamon's right. He wasn't as brilliant in the Champions League as we've seen him tonight. But there was a little flick there early on in the game. Here he is again. Look at that, a little back heel, bringing his Rakitic, his partner in midfield. Good ball here. That's Perisic. Goes close. Here's what I'm talking about. Him nicking things, Dara. You know, he's a great reader again. There you go again. Not so much tackling, but just reading where the passes are going to be, and he sets his team up. Nearly every, I think Eamon said it in before the match, every ball he gives is a real quality ball. It gets his team on the front foot. He's very, very positive in all he does, and that was a wonderful goal to cap an absolutely brilliant performance. And I know he has problems at home, but if he carries on doing that, I'm convinced those charges will go away.
Yeah, in the Euros 2 years ago, they were very unlucky. They got, I think it was injuries, and someone got 2 yellows, red card. They had to field a weakened team. Yeah. But they were going well in that too, so they're used to playing in tournament football, which is different from any other kind of football, and they'll be a very strong camp now. So I think they are a threat to everybody.
They certainly looked it tonight for sure, and they will be going forward. Damien, we flagged it up at half-time, the tackling, the physicality, the, at times, nastiness in it. We're just going to have a look at it again.
Well, this is the second half now, so it was the whole way through the 90 minutes. And the pleasing thing about Croatia, you know, Ant and Argentina threw with them. They matched them and more. If they tried to play out, they pressed them. If they tried to press them, they play through them. And then if they tried to kick them, they just kick you back, and they matched you up. They're big, they're strong, they're physical. If the Argentinians got kicked, you could see they got frustrated and they lost their heads, whereas the Croatians, they just kept ice cool. Like, they deal with this every week, and it didn't bother them one bit. They just got on with it. And like I said, 2 minutes later, they'd leave a bit on an Argentina player. Clever fouls as well, you know, just bordering on the line where do you give a yellow, do you not? And yeah, I said if they come up against maybe a French team or a Denmark team in the last 16, you know those two teams won't be able to cope with this. A, the physicality, and possibly B, the quality as well. So, as Liam rightly said, this here is the sums ought to mend you up. This is a red card, so I'm not getting into VAR thing, but if you're up in the office there, you have to call that. It's no chance of yellow. He could have took Rakitic's head off there. It's nasty, and the sums ought to mend you up in one picture.
Argentina committed 15 fouls. Croatia committed 23. Like, would this have been, do you think, a message from Sampaoli to his team? Like, do you think Argentina well, they gave away, Croatia gave away more free kicks than Argentina did, but do you think this was part of the Sampaoli plan? We're going to rough these guys up a bit and see how they react?
I think Argentina have that in their makeup anyway, Dara. You know, they have always had a reputation that if the things are not going right for them, they will resort to nasty fouls. But as Damien highlighted there, the Croatians were well able for them. If you wanted to play that way, we can play that way. And they made some clever fouls as well. I thought the goal scorer, Rebic, was so lucky that he didn't get sent off in the first half.
Fortunate for sure. Just to finish, Eamon, we're going to look at Messi. Yeah. And, you know, as we said earlier on, everybody talking about him tonight, there will be tomorrow and beyond this.
Yeah, a great player, the greatest many of us believe we've ever seen. And it's important to note that at this moment, which for him must be a very, very tough moment indeed. Here he is fighting in the first half, wins the ball. But it's a hopeless cause, really. This is a great player. That's a poor ball. But what's the option? There's no good option most of the time. Here, he's trying, but he can't. You can't. This is a team game, and the things he has at Barcelona, the players he has around him, the options he has. He likes to feint, to go to a colleague and then go the other way. Well, there's nobody. You can't feint to go to a colleague if there's no colleague. So he was isolated, and that's about as much temper, I think, as I've ever seen, and frustration as I've ever seen. And let's hope people don't start saying now Ronaldo has proved, you know, all that stuff.
Yeah.
This is one great man and a great player.
Indeed he is. OK, well, they could still make it through to the last 16. It's an outside chance. Argentina's fate out of their hands for sure. They need other results to go their way. Croatia, though, they've made it through to the last 16 with a game to spare.